Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Urban Network podcast. I'm your host, Hewitt Pagenstecher, the founder of Amygdala Media, and today I am pleased to be joined by Bob Paskins. Bob Paskins is the founder of Bob Paskins Enterprises and the creator of the Growth Matrix. He also partners with companies to drive sales growth through team trainings, individual coaching, and consulting sessions. Bob, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm well, Hewitt. Thank you very much for having me.
Of course, yeah, no, it's been great to do this. We've known each other for a couple of years, just both being based out of Urban Office, which has been a great experience. It's a beautiful co-working space in South Portland. So if you're looking for like a great community or a great place to be productive and get work done, growing your business, I would definitely recommend checking out Urban Office. Now, Bob, I want to learn a little bit about your history. I know you've had several sales jobs, and that's probably an understatement, but tell me a little bit about your history in sales and what drove you to go off on your own and start your own sales consulting business.
Yeah, thank you. I think it is kind of a good story. You learn different pieces as you go through. So I've basically been doing sales everything since being out of college. So first it was radio station ads, which was a lot of fun, but I didn't really see much of a future in there. And then that ultimately led me up to San Francisco, California, where I became a commercial insurance broker. And at that role, there's two main things. First thing is making sure that you're able to find clients, organically generate your own clients, which is called their book of business. And then second of all, being able to service those clients so they'll continue to renew those insurance policies with you. So I was doing that in San Francisco. I had to kind of find my right spot, found my right spot there. And then about that time, I found Danielle, who agreed to marry me, which was great. And then we were looking to figure out what our next place was, and that led us up to Oregon. The challenge was up in Oregon, I had to start out and build up my new book of business again. So found another insurance partner up here, and for 10 years was able to successfully build a large book of clientele. So much so that they really liked what I was able to do, and they said, why don't you train others as well? So that turned into kind of a sales manager type of role as I worked with other people just to try to help them build their own books of business. And then finally, that even turned into a shareholder's opportunity at that company. But Hewitt, it's interesting. As soon as I became a shareholder, my conversations with my clients stopped, because they didn't really view me as much as a vendor now, but they viewed me as a peer to talk business owner to business owner to be able to help them out. And it was great because at that point, our whole relationship changed. But on the downside, I realized our whole relationship changed, and what I really enjoyed was the conversations trying to help them out from one business owner to the other, help their business grow, and the product that I was selling was secondary. And I was thinking about that, and all of a sudden, a light bulb just flashed in my mind, and I realized I had to make the transition. And the transition I had to make was going from selling products to helping companies, instead now to help companies sell their products. By doing so, a change had to be made. And at that point, I moved from selling insurance products from an insurance broker out to starting my own company and going out and selling or helping those businesses sell their products.
So you really started to find joy in creating those sales processes, and honestly the science and techniques behind having a successful sales strategy, you would say?
Yeah, I would say that was kind of a big thing, because at least in our conversations, there was always this conversation about either with business development or sales, something was just kind of out of alignment with their company. And what I would be able to do is sit down with them. It's kind of like a car going down the road. And yes, it's going 65 miles an hour down the interstate. And it's great because you're able to go 65 miles an hour. But for some reason, it's kind of pulling you, say, off to the right.
Yeah.
And it's going, but because it's pulling off to the right, the car is slightly out of alignment. And what I've been able to do, and what gives me great joy, is to sit down with business owners and figure out exactly what is going out of alignment so they can fix that. And then they can go straight down the road without being pulled in one way or the other.
And you do that through this thing you developed called the growth matrix. Can you kind of explain how you would define the growth matrix and what that is?
Yeah, so the growth matrix is a comprehensive sales program. That's probably the best way to describe that, because kind of using that analogy of the carving out of alignment, you would have companies that would come in and they think they can't get their sales because of one specific area. And what they think is if they really focus on that one specific area, all of their sales will flourish and all of their sales problems will go away. But typically, in my experience, what I found is that one area, yes, it could be the problem, but it might actually just be a symptom of a greater problem within their company or within their organization. So what the growth matrix does is it takes a look at 6 different areas of a business. And looking at those 6 individual areas, we take a comprehensive look of their sales program to figure out exactly what the issue is. And what's kind of funny is a majority of the time, what they think their problem is not actually what the problem is. But when we dig into this through that growth matrix and look at multiple aspects of their companies, we're able to see actually what their problem is and start to begin to solve it.
Yeah, it seems like a really great, well-rounded approach to looking into the sales processes and strategies and just everything that goes into a company and the success of their sales team.
Yeah.
In fact, you explained this to me a couple of times before. Also presented it and talked about it during Urban Network, which is the networking event that coincides with this podcast. And what's really interesting about this too, or what's really helpful, is you have a great visual interpretation and layout of the growth matrix. You did a really great job in basically making this a very visual and understandable thing. And of course, you convey well over audio too, I gotta say.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I think what I have found with a number of companies is we'll look at the growth matrix, because what I've noticed is there are 6 what I call elements, and it looks kind of like a giant element there. You have growth in the middle, and then you have 6 kind of elements that go around growth. And if one of those elements is missing, it deeply impacts the others. For example, a number of companies are trying to figure out and get more clients, and they're trying to figure out what there is. And so that's one element, what I call discovery, is really figuring out who your clients are and how you can best serve them, kind of figuring out your ideal client and to get more of them that way. But they focus so much about that. What they may not do is they may not focus on any type of a tracking system or a CRM system with the prospects that they already have in the pipeline. And they might start initial conversations, but those go away over time. So a second element is tracking. So in that scenario there with one of the companies I was working with, they were trying to get more prospects in, but the problem was as many prospects as they were getting in, they were leaking out of a different part of the business because they weren't tracking the current prospects they had through the sales process to turn them into clients. And once we figured out what that was, we tightened up the tracking component, and at that point, they had revenue growth.
Wow. A really cool place I've seen you apply the growth matrix is during your Sales Tip Tuesdays, which I follow you on LinkedIn, and I believe you actually include the Sales Tip Tuesday videos in your newsletter as well.
Yes.
Right? And they're like extremely they're a couple minutes long, and you get sales tips every Tuesday. Where can people find this, if anywhere else? And who is this for? Who would you recommend this Sales Tip Tuesday content to?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I really actually enjoy doing those Sales Tip Tuesday videos. Like you would think they come out every Tuesday, and they're basically for anyone who is in sales. So this could be the frontline person who's out trying to generate new business. It also could be for the manager or the owner of the business who's trying to figure out how they can get more sales within the company. So the feedback that I've gotten is from everyone from the front line saying these tips are great, to even the sales managers who are like, this is really good. I wish that I could put what I'm doing with Sales Tip Tuesday into my sales training for my staff, which they can use through the Sales Tip Tuesdays, or they can use by bringing me on individually. But the tip is just to be able to provide a nice free source of information to try to help basically salespeople and sales organizations sharpen their tools so they can be more effective.
And I've seen these on your YouTube, right? And I'm going to link to Bob Paskins' YouTube below, as well as his LinkedIn page, because I know it exists there. But how can people sign on to your newsletter?
Yeah, so the best way to do that is either through LinkedIn or reaching out to me through my website, which is bobpaskins.com, or you can email me, which is bob@bobpaskins.com. And we'll gladly get you on that list so that you'll be able to get the Sales Tip Tuesdays in your inboxes every week. Or, of course, a lot of people just follow me through LinkedIn, and they will reach out and they'll comment through that as well.
Excellent. And speaking of sales tips, something that I notice or that I would guess is like a big element in being a successful salesperson is motivation. Be motivated to sell your product or service, be passionate about the value that has to provide, and just be able to get up every day and put your best foot forward when you start your job. What tips or what advice might you have for people or to increase their motivation with sales or their team's motivation?
I think the bottom line and the first thing that you have to understand, there's three things. So the first thing is you actually have to like what you sell. Honestly, that's bottom line. If you don't like the product or service you're selling, you don't believe in the product or service you're selling, or you don't like the company that you represent, you are not going to be a good salesperson. So that's always kind of my first rule is figure out, do you like the company, the product and service that you sell, and that organization? If you don't, you are not going to succeed. And my actual advice is, if you want to remain in sales, find a company or service that you actually do believe in, where you think you'd be able to do well. The second thing is, when it looks at motivating people, I think it's very important for owners to figure out what actually motivates their sales professionals. Now, a majority of the time, it's money. Trying to figure out, if I sell this much money, I'm going to get this much commission or this much bonus, or I'll be able to get this much salary, and that's great. But not everyone works that way. My wife and her company, money is a nice feature of it, but it's not the main feature of it. For her, people love to get recognized. And some companies, if you realize that what motivates you is to be able to have that recognition, have those pats on the back, have those little gifts saying that we appreciate you, that can go a long way with helping motivate people. Others would be just kind of special gifts or trips or services or perks. For others, it could be the hours that they work, where they may not be able to work the standard 9 to 5 hours. They might have to work different hours, but that job allows them to be able to sell whenever they can sell. I think that's the big thing. Owners have to figure out what really motivates their employees. And employees have to figure out really what motivates them to want to sell that product and service. If you can get alignment with those two, that helps people really get excited to be able to go out and sell.
And did you have any more things in that list?
I think the third thing is, it also starts with leadership. You have to have leaders or sales managers who also believe in their product and service. They usually do that. Otherwise, they wouldn't have the business. But have them actually do the work. Set the example for the team, where people can take a look at other sales managers, or they can look at the ownership and say, you know what? They're committed as well. And if they're committed to this and show that level of commitment, I'm going to be able to show that level of commitment. It's just kind of amazing, even looking at something with sales processes, which is another element in the growth matrix, that I've worked with companies, and the frustration that I hear is the ownership or the management think that all frontline salespeople should go through this process. But they themselves, as the owners or the managers, or maybe even senior level salespeople, don't follow that process. And it creates this disconnect within the team because the more junior people or the newer people are going through this process, but they aren't seeing other people who are higher up in the company do that. And if you don't have that consistency throughout the entire company where everyone is on board and doing the exact same thing, you're going to suffer with your productivity.
Yeah, I think it's important to, for everyone to be on board with the mission of the company, right?
Yes.
And everyone should be aware of what that mission is, whether you're the CEO or even like the cleaning crew, or the entry level like interns, right? And then especially when the CEO or the president is on board with that, it's great for them to be able to lead by example and be more of a leader than a boss.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think there's one other element there, and I forgot to mention that earlier, is also there's a cause behind it too. You take a look at Tom's shoes. And so for every shoe that they sell, or every pair of shoes they sell, they give one away. And more these days, if you have a good mission behind the company as well, that can help motivate the people who work for that because they believe in what they do and they also believe in a larger mission within their company.
Yeah, it could really incentivize people just when they know that what they're doing is making a positive impact on their society or the world around them.
Yes, absolutely.
One reason I was really excited to have you on this podcast is because another thing that you do is you're a professional speaker. You're a motivator, you're a keynote speaker, you're a motivational speaker. And I don't know, as every time that I talk to you or see you do a presentation, you're just so great at storytelling and all that. I'm going to stop. You get it. So tell me about like some speaking events you've done in the past. What type of events are these? You've been a keynote speaker, and what's your role when you get on that stage?
Well, great. Thank you for asking about that. The speaking part of my business is part of business that I really enjoy. Maybe it's because I have a little bit of a ham inside of me where I love just to kind of be out and to share with other people. Primarily when it comes to the events, it's one of two areas. It's large companies who would look to be able to bring me in. For example, I worked with Bob's Red Mill, and so they brought in their wholesale staff together, and I was able to do a keynote for them and be able to help them out with keynotes and training. Or else another thing I like to do is work with associations. So associations, and we didn't see this in 2020 as much with everything COVID related, but prior to that, and thankfully coming out of that now, there are more opportunities for me to be able to go out and speak at these associations as a keynote speaker, which I actually like personally, because for my business model, if I'm able to be a keynote speaker at events that their constituents would hire me, it provides an avenue to be able to do my consulting services. And funny enough, the consulting services lead me to have more keynote speaking events. So it's kind of a cycle in that way. But I think when I get on stage, I always want to try to do three things. And, here we go. Here's a speaker with his three comments, and they all begin with the same letter. So sure enough, I have it here. So the three things I want to do each time is I want to entertain the audience, I want to educate the audience, and I want to empower the audience. And so when I talk about entertaining, it's all about stories. Stories sell. It's a great way to personalize what you're able to do and to really bring good points home. So I try to at least put 75 to 80% of my whole speaking to have some sort of a story or an example or a narrative really around that, because that's the entertaining aspect of that. When it comes to educating, I think the biggest thing is you have to have a problem that you can solve. And if you don't have a problem, you can just kind of be like a wonderful storyteller out there. My grandfather was a fantastic storyteller. It was great. You kind of sat down and you thought, man, that was really good. I really loved his stories. But, they did it kind of for humor more than anything else. Mm-hmm. When I'm invited in here, they usually invite me because there's a certain problem they want me to address. And I want to try to educate them as best as possible on that specific problem. And then the third thing, the empower piece, is, again, you might have been a part of those events where you hear a speaker and you think, man, that speaker was great. it was very entertaining. Great. I learned a couple of things about that, but I don't know really where to take it from here. And that's where the empowerment comes in, because I want to make sure that when they walk away from a keynote presentation, I've empowered them with some tangible takeaways that they're able to put in day one after our session together. I think that's really great, because if they're able to take these takeaways and help themselves increase throughout their career, I've actually done what my job is. I don't just want to be on a stage for 40 minutes and that's it. If there can be something else that they can take from them and put in their daily routine to help them succeed, that's what my goal is.
Yeah, you empower them, their sales team, and they get reinvigorated to conquer their day or whatever objectives that they have on the horizon.
Yes.
And I think that storytelling is really important, not only because it keeps it engaging, but because it makes the lesson that you're conveying memorable.
Yeah.
So those were just like 3 great points and advice to anybody who is interested in getting into speaking or wanting to improve their public speaking as well. Well, Bob, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast today. Is there, let's see, anything else that you have in mind on the horizon, or maybe at least like a way people can get a hold of you if they're interested in either your keynote speaking services or your sales consulting services?
Yeah, I think the best thing, again, we kind of mentioned that before, is feel free to connect either through my website or the LinkedIn profile. So LinkedIn profile is Bob Paskins. The website is bobpaskins.com. The email is bob@bobpaskins.com. And what I encourage people to do, yes, you can sign up for the Sales Tip Tuesday, but if you have interest in me either speaking to your business as, to help them with the sales consulting or sales training side, or else as a speaker at one of the events, on my website or through my email, there is a button just to be able to have a complimentary 30-minute consultation. And I enjoy doing that. It's a great way for me to learn about other people's business and their events. Again, it's 30 minutes that I'm able to provide some good advice and counsel for them without them having to sign up for anything. But it's a great service that I look to try to provide to them so we can begin to discern how I best help out their business, either through the consulting side of things or through a keynote speaker. So what I would willingly throw up to the Urban Network podcast here as a gift for having me be there is a free 30-minute consultation. So if they would want to do that, feel free to reach out to me. The last thing I would say here is one of the aspects of my company that I love the best and I'm most proud of is called the Give Back Guarantee. And what my Give Back Guarantee simply is this: if I'm able to work at an event or work for your company, 10% of my fee goes to a nonprofit of your choice. And I think that is a great way for me to be able to give back to others. It also kind of sets me apart because not everyone is going to do that. And it's my ability, especially if there's a cause or something that people are really motivated by, I happily donate 10% of my fee to that nonprofit of their choice. So one of the other things I love to throw in, I just want to slide that in at the end.
Of course, that's amazing. That's like the one of the cause-based things that you mentioned earlier that could make you even more motivated to do well and grow your business and help and impact as many companies as you can out there.
Great.
Well, one thing that I'm going to say is if anyone listening is interested in our networking events, we have monthly networking events that have been on Zoom over the last year and a half. But I anticipate us moving to in-person events soon. Go to urbannetwork.biz if you want to sign up for events or listen to more podcast episodes. Bob, thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time to be on this podcast.
Hewitt, thank you very much. I enjoyed our time together.
And everyone who's listening, have a great day.